Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 16 years now, we've been asking the Frantrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show. Well, last month, we met with Chad Harrison, Franchise Development Representative at Authority Brands, and Michael Hutchins, Franchise Development Manager at Authority Brands. And Authority Brands is headquartered in Columbia, Maryland, and is the parent company of several leading home service companies. And over the years, Franchise Interviews has interviewed many of the franchises for Authority Brands. So today what we're going to do is something a little bit different. We're going to play clips from some of those interviews that we've done over the years and kind of tell the story of each brand. And some of those brands include Screenmobile, and Screenmobile provides the best selection of screen-related services and products right to your door. We got Monster Tree Service, and Monster Tree Service employs professional arborists committed to healthy trees and satisfied customers. Junkluggers. With sustainable disposable services, you can easily discard your unwanted junk of all kinds and feel good about it. And lastly, we'll finish with America Swimming Pools, ASP, commonly referred to as America Swimming Pool Company, and they provide exceptional pool maintenance, repair, and renovation. And here's a clip of our interview that we did with Chad and Michael from Authority Brands. At the time, because the show's been running so long now, at the time, many of the brands that I interviewed, I don't think they were under the umbrella of Authority Brands. Maybe, either one of you gentlemen can talk about, what's the, maybe what are some of the advantages of having this whole portfolio or family of brands when we're talking about Authority?
Sure. Chad, do you want to take this, or would you like me to answer?
Sure. No, absolutely. I mean, you have the power of Authority Brands. You have, the opportunity for all of our candidates, whichever brand they have the initial interest in, the opportunity to say, maybe this brand isn't for me. I'd like to pivot, and I still love the home services, but maybe American Swimming Pool Company is more my style and something that fits more into my trade. So we're very fortunate in that sense. And also, specifically for 1 hour heating and air, behind the power of AB, Authority Brands, we put in about $700,000 into recruitment last year. So you have, the ability for the capital and for the, for the company to put in that assistance where you were needed to support and back up the brands. Michael?
Right. Go ahead, Michael.
No, and, those are good points. And really, I mean, we want to own the home, both inside and out. I have many franchisees that go on to add an additional trade brand, another one of, our sister brands. We've already got the customer established. Now we're just going to provide additional services to that, homeowner. Chad kind of touched on, the purchasing power. But, I mean, we're almost $2 billion strong. It translates into greater discounts on the front end, rebates on the back end for all of our owners, driving even greater profitability. If there's another one of our brands in a market, and then we're opening up a new 1 hour there, we have those customers already. It helps our owners get off to a...
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over years now, we've been asking the Frantrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with Scott Walker, the CEO of Screenmobile. And Screenmobile is the nation's largest mobile window screen repair business with over 100 franchise owners and growing. Hi, Scott. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Marty, and glad to be here.
Thanks, Scott. It's great to have you back. We like to have our guests back from time to time, Scott. And I didn't realize it's been I think it was about 4 years since I last spoke to you, but it seems like yesterday, doesn't it?
It does. It really does, Marty. A lot's happened in 4 years. So it's great to be back, and thanks for...
Oh, thanks. You're welcome. That's why I wanted to have you back, of all the exciting changes. Since that time, Scott, we've had a lot of new listeners to our show, and, Screenmobile has had some really amazing milestones because I've been following,
your success. Maybe, we can go back to the beginning. It was funny, Scott, because I was talking last week to my business students, and we were talking about businesses that started in the garage, and I forgot Screenmobile was one of those businesses, weren't they?
Marty, how could you forget that? We're out of California, and there's 3 great companies that came out of garages in California.
That's right.
Apple, Microsoft, and Screenmobile. So
that's right.
That's right. Just throwing it out there.
That's fantastic. Maybe go back to that beginning, Scott, because, as I said, we have so many new listeners to the show, and I've always been impressed with the story of, how the whole concept of Screenmobile really came about.
Marty, we had a house doctor franchise. My dad, myself, and my brother started a house doctor franchise as a franchisee. And we started that, worked that for a couple of years, and just had a hard time getting along with the franchisor because the expectations of when you sign up and the reality were just not the same. And so we said, if we ever started a franchise system, we would sure do things differently. And so that relationship, we both mutually kind of released each other and went away, and we started Screenmobile. We found out that in the screening industry, there was 4,000 screening companies in the United States when we started, but nobody had been really specializing in the customer's aspect of that, of offering convenience.
Right.
And so we had an old tent trailer that we used to take things to the dump when we were doing our house doctor work, and at the time we built a screening table and put it in our garage in Lindora, California. And we had a call, if you know anything about the L.A. basin, traffic's horrendous. So a lady called us and said, hey, I want a couple window screens 45 minutes away. And so we're thinking, okay, 45 minutes to go down there and measure it, 45 minutes to come back and make them, 45 minutes to go back and put them in, 45 minutes to come back. It just didn't make sense. So we looked at the trailer that was sitting there empty and the table, and they said, well, let's just put the table in the trailer and we'll go do it at the same time. And that was the birth of Screenmobile. I wish we were smart enough to say, hey, let's put a plan together. Here's a niche in an industry that's not being fulfilled. Here's how it's going to... No, we didn't. We're just 3 guys trying to make a living and trying to do some cost savings. And that was a birth of an industry, and it worked. And the lady next door came up, and we did some screens for her, and we're like, wow, we're onto something here. And so then we started franchising.
The mother of invention, right, Scott? I mean, it is. That's really how you learn it. And I've always been a big fan, because we've been doing the show such a long time now, Scott, is the mobile businesses, is really being able to get around the location aspect. We have a lot of, particularly like there's so many food franchises out there, locations always seems to be a problem. In retail, sometimes it's a problem, but you don't deal with those things, do you?
You know what? We don't, and it's especially when our guys start up, they don't have to go into a brick and mortar, and they don't have that expense to cover, and so they can start out of their garage, they can start out of a self-storage. They can, if they have property, they can actually build a building and pay themselves and use their company to pay for the building. There's all kinds of ways, but yeah, that's a huge benefit, especially as they start up, and if we hit any type of a bump coming up the next couple of years, they'll be glad they don't have a brick and mortar to take care of.
We have, I don't know if I told you this story last time on the show, Scott. I apologize if I did, but we have this one gentleman in Easton, Pennsylvania, and I swear he must fix everyone's screen in this area, but he must be approaching his 90s. And the problem is it takes so long to get your screen back, and Screenmobile really, it solves a problem in the marketplace. As you're meeting with new or prospective franchisees, if you were like at a franchise show, how do you typically describe the concept to a prospective franchisee?
Yeah, it's really interesting, Marty. In the screening world, when I explain that, and I'll explain it in just a second, when I explain it, they come with the preconceived notion that all we do is window screens. And so in their mind, they're thinking, okay, how many window screens do I have in my house, and what do? You rescreen and replace them? And so that's kind of the basis where we get most of our people. And so what we explain to them is that we have a system, and that system we're going to teach you how to measure, manufacture, and install window doors, porch, and patio screens. But more than that, we're going to teach you the cornerstones of what makes Screenmobile successful. What are the building blocks that have been around for over 36 years that we sit on that makes us who we are and makes us successful? And so we tell them that we do, from your window screen. So we start them thinking about window screens, but then do you have a front door? They're like, yes. Well, do you have a door covering on that? What kind of covering? And you say, well, we cover it with a retractable door, a screen door, a storm door, a security door, an aluminum security door, a stainless steel security door, or a retractable door where you don't even see it. They're like, well, I didn't know that. And then you have a back porch? They're like, well, yeah. Do you have mosquitoes where you live? Oh, yeah, we got lots of them. So you have and then you start going through all the different porch options where we can just rescreen them, we can restaple them, we can make 2x2, we can make it weather resistant, we can make it a 3-seasons room. What do you want to do with that? And then you start talking about, I don't want it there, I just like it out of the way. So we talk about rolling and motorized and hooking up to your home automation with different types of screens, and then you start, then their eyes start to open up, going, oh my gosh.
Right.
I had no idea. And you're like, yeah, so here's how we work, is any place somebody wants a screen made, we can do that. So we're a mobile concept. That's one of those cornerstones. And they're like, so what kind of screens do you need made? What do your neighbors need made? And we'll come right there. And the other cornerstone is convenience. I mean, anytime you can do a business with somebody and it's easy and convenient, that's one of the big cornerstones of success. Just making it real simple, real easy to do business with. And how much easier, Marty, you and I are talking, if I needed a plumber to come out, I can call him up, he'll show up, he'll take care of it and be gone. Well, in the screening industry, there's nobody that really does that.
Right, exactly.
Because they have a shop located in some brick and mortar. And so what we said, well, let's take our shop and locate it on a trailer. And so one of our core cornerstones that we build our company on is we're a mobile. We're a mobile concept. And we will come out, we'll bring our product to them, and we'll measure, manufacture, and install their window, doors, porches, patio screens right at the job site. And then the fourth thing that we found, that's one of our cornerstones, is the marketing ability of the truck and trailer. Oh my gosh, Marty, over the 36 years, when that truck and trailer pulls up, it's like an event. They just love it. I mean, look at them, and it builds credibility because they're doing it right in your front yard or in your driveway, or they're making these screens right there. They're going to be perfect. Oh man, it works really well. It's a
moving billboard, isn't it, Scott?
Oh my gosh, and we've actually hired a company about 10 years ago to brand us correctly. And so we met with him. We did a brand positioning workshop, and he says, "This is what you need to be telling your customers, and this is who your customers are. This is you need to be telling them." And we've done that. And oh my gosh, it works really well.
That's fantastic. Last time I talked to you, Scott, you just hit I think it was you just served like your 1 millionth customer. You've been doing this now, I think it was 36 years. You have over 100 franchisees. Those are significant numbers. As I mentioned, doing the show a long time, I find it rare that we have, franchises that have been in business this long and have over 100 plus franchisees. Those numbers are significant. What is all of it attributed to?
Marty, I think a lot of the growth is making sure that our franchisees are healthy. Everybody in the franchising world, most franchisors, they look at health and sales, and they equate those. If the guys are doing great in sales, they've got to be healthy, and are they really being productive, and they're getting the results that they want? Well, there's another column on that, and is the franchisee being a good steward of his money, and is he running a business so it's a healthy business, making some good, healthy decisions? And so what we've learned over the 36 years of doing this is there's more than just helping somebody understand how to make screens. It's helping them understand how to make good business decisions for the long game. So that they can be around for a long time in our system. It's 10 years in our system. and that's how long one license goes for. And so we want to make sure that they get on their feet, and they start making some good business decisions that maybe are a little hard to make now, but they'll pay off in the long run and make them a healthier business owner in their franchise. And so,
I know your renewal rates are really high too, aren't they, Scott? I looked at that. I saw all these different numbers and all these different accolades that Screenmobile's had over the years, and it's very impressive, isn't it? When you look at that, I ask the question: is why?
Right. Why are these guys renewing? And I would love to say because they love Screenmobile family, they love the way the corporate offices run, they love everything about it, and now they're making money. It's their reality. It's great. That's the extra benefit if they like us and we get along and we can work well together. That's part of how franchising works. But more than anything, they renew because they make good money.
How technology seems to be moving so fast today, Scott. I mean, how's Screenmobile using technology today as opposed to maybe 5 to 10 years ago?
Great question. We have gone along with the trend of hopefully most other service companies to embrace technology and find a operating system that works for you. And so we got a team of franchisees together about 6-7 years ago and looked at about 200 different operating systems. And here's the requirements doc. And so each of you go look at 5 or 10 of these, see what you like, what you don't like. And we kind of focused in on one service provider that does a great job with our system. And so now that's what we use. And it works great on your phones, on your tablet, and so now our guys, one of the requirements, they have to have a smartphone. They also, and when they come through training, we actually get them a tablet, so they train right off their tablet. And so they learn from the very beginning that this is how you operate a service business. There's so many service. When I was doing service work, and we started, it was all. You'd write it down on a calendar, and then you'd write out a paper ticket. And those days there are still guys out there doing that. I mean, there's still service-based companies doing that. But what we do is, you can email the customer an invoice, you can email a quote, you can send them before and after pictures, and they're happy to receive that. And it just makes it really easy for my franchisees to do it from a technology standpoint. The only thing that I found with technology is you're still dealing with people.
Sure.
So it's people in people's homes. So you can have all the technology you want, but you can't miss the customer service part of it, because that's kind of the cornerstone of what's been successful and what continue to be successful. You can't have technology step in front of somebody. You can have them help them, but you can't.
Franchise interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over years we've been asking the Franchipreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, and I'm the president of Franchise Interviews. And as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with Josh Skolnick, who is the founder of the Monster Tree Service franchise opportunity. And Monster Tree Service is a professional tree restoration, pruning, and removal service founded in Fort Washington, Pennsylvania. Hey Josh, how you doing? Welcome to the show this morning.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well, Josh. Thanks for coming on the show. We're excited to have you on the show for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think we've ever had this category. We've been doing the show almost 6 years now, and we haven't had your category on the show or your industry, so excited about that. And also, you're from Pennsylvania, so there's a couple of different reasons. Are you calling from Pennsylvania this morning, Josh?
Yes, I am.
Okay, fantastic. And you have, I was reading before the show your biography. I mean, it almost seems like you were a born entrepreneur or destined for entrepreneurship. Did you want to talk a little bit about what you were doing before, I guess you could say, starting Monster Tree Service?
Yeah, at an early age, about 13 years old, I started out in the landscape industry. Grew up in a neighborhood where it was primarily elderly people, so started in the wintertime, really shoveling snow for the neighbors at free of charge, so to say, for fresh baked cookies at the end of the winter to help them out so they can get out in case of an emergency and stuff. That kind of snowballed into cutting grass for some of the people as well. grew into a full-time business for me through middle school and high school. I graduated high school with a multi-unit business, but didn't want to spend the rest of my life cutting grass. So I chose to move into another direction, into the mulch blowing field. I had large blower trucks, installed landscape products thematically all over the East Coast, primarily from Long Island, New York, down to Northern Virginia. Spent a lot of time living out of hotels doing that, working around the clock, and saw the economy starting to crash, and had a lot of my existing landscape customers who still continue to contact me even after the sale of my landscape business in 2007 that would contact me to find out, Josh, do you have someone who can clean my gutters, power wash my deck, do seal coating of my driveway, do my trees? And so in the spring of 2008, I had a customer who was calling me, and he had a dead elm tree, and unfortunately he couldn't get anybody to cut it down, nor find a professional company to come out and actually show up for the estimate and give him a respectable price to do it. So he called me, he says, Josh, I'm getting a little frustrated. What can you do to help me out? I said, give me a few days, Dave, and I'll get back with you and see what I can do. Well, I called one of my subcontractors that when I was in the landscape business, I would sub out my tree work to, and said, what would you charge me? What would you charge me to give me a tree climber for the day? He says, you know what, Josh? He goes, give me $250. I said, okay, no problem, deal. Called Dave back, said, listen, I can get the tree down for you for $2,500. Go out there with one of my dump trucks, rented a chipper. Next thing you know, the tree climber says, I need this, I need that. Went out and bought him the proper equipment to get through it. And the funniest part about the whole story was we showed up to cut down a tree that was about 4-foot diameter at the base with an 18-inch steel chainsaw. So the climber looks at me and goes, Josh, I'm not getting through that tree with that saw. I need this, I need that. So I went out and I got it for him. The best part of the whole story is while the crew's working on taking down the tree, I'm walking up and down the street. People are coming out. Hey, I get a limb over my house. I get a dead tree in my backyard. I got this tree that's blocking my view getting out of my driveway. Can you get me a price to cut it down? Over a 4 or 5 hour period, I sold about $20,000 worth of work up and down that street.
That's amazing. I love stories like that, Josh. That's a great story.
Very unique. So I had no intention of getting in the tree business. I was more or less trying to help out an existing customer of mine. Turns out that because of that one job, it looked like, that was Saturday, June 7th, 2008. And, I looked at the guys that were there and the tree climber. I said, can you start Monday? He says, I start Monday. So it was like, he said, why? What's going on? I said, it looks like I'm in a tree business. I just sold $20,000 worth of work on the street. And he goes, I'm in. So from there, it really started to grow. Bought a brand new bucket truck, chippers, chip trucks, acquired well over $1 million worth of equipment within a 6-month time frame. Took out marketing, direct mail, phone book ads, you name it. Just did like guerrilla marketing on it, and was in the tree business. And within the first calendar year, build out well in excess of $1 million in services.
That's fantastic. You guys provide a lot of different.
Today.
Yeah, it's a great story. It's you guys provide a lot of different services too. I noticed, going on the website. We were just recently at the franchise show at the Jacob Javits Center, and I noticed when a lot of people they come up to a booth, they say, "So what do you guys do?" How do you typically respond to someone if they were to come up to your booth and say, "So what do you guys do, Josh?" Where do you go from there?
So what do? We teach people how to make money. And the number one thing I say to people is, what brings you here to the show? Obviously, you want to go into business for yourself, and number one reason why you want to go into your business for yourself is because you want that financial independence. Right. Well, what we offer is not necessarily the sexiest business, but what we offer is an executive model within a very profitable industry. Unfortunately, we're in a business where that lacks true professionals, and that's what Monster Tree Service offers. State-of-the-art system with unparalleled customer service and professionalism. And we break that down and we teach the people how they can operate a business and employ and execute a company that is probably one of the most profitable industries you could truly be in when it comes to exterior maintenance. So when you break that down for somebody and you show them that we've got a national hiring program to really pair them with the arborists to do the sales for them, the tree climbers to do the climbing work, and we're teaching them how to be an executive and run their business in a profitable fashion, acquire the right equipment, stagger and stage the crews appropriately and schedule the work in a profitable manner, it becomes very appealing to people. One thing that we also have that, as you probably know from the franchise community, is an item 19 within our FTD. A lot of companies don't do that because, they have weak financial performances, and we don't. So we find that at the trade shows, people come up to us and they go, tree service. Why do I want to go into the tree service? And they leave and go and scan my badge. I want to talk to you ASAP. This interests me a lot. So when they see that item 19, that doesn't lie that this is a profitable industry.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think that's important. You're right. Most franchisors do not list that item 19, so I think that's fantastic. In addition, when I was reading about you guys too, it sounds like in addition to buying a business that is very profitable and makes money, it sounds like you spent a lot of time systematizing this particular business. From that moment that you discovered this niche or this need in the market, it sounds like you spent several years, I guess you could say, systematizing this business as well. Would you say?
Absolutely, and I get questioned by my employees a lot of times when I stop by job sites. Why are you here? We know what we're doing. And I say, and I explain to my guys, the reason why I'm here on this job site is not to babysit you or to teach you how to do your job, but it's really to study what you guys are doing and find a more effective approach to the way that we do it. And that's why with certain pieces of equipment that I've acquired over the 4 years I've been doing this, that's because I've studied and watched what the guys are doing and look at things and go, that's not efficient. There's got to be a better way. And even though I feel as if I'm to the point where I've got the most efficient way, and I hear from a lot of guys that have 15, 20, 25 years experience in the industry that come to work for me and say, I've never seen a system like what you have. I still feel like there's a better way, and I will consistently strive to try to find that and continue to evaluate and study the industry that I'm in. I never get with the attitude that we're too good for this and we figured it out, because there's always a better way to do it. And, one big thing that I talk to the potential franchisees about is, can you do this on your own? Absolutely, you can do this on your own. But one thing I'm going to point out to you that's very important, why we all go into business, it's for the money. And you can spend the next 15 to 20 years figuring out what I've tested and measured in the last 4 years. And by the time you figure out what I do, you will never make up the lost revenue. That's
true. No, absolutely. And I like how you said there's always a better way to do it. I think McDonald's, has that philosophy, and Subway has that philosophy. The great, franchisors that have like 34,000 units, they're always looking to improve upon that system, So I think that's so important. I'm looking out my window right now. I'm also in Pennsylvania, Josh. I'm in eastern Pennsylvania, and I'm looking at thousands and thousands of trees. It sounds to me like, I'm imagining that this is a pretty big market or a pretty big industry. Would you say?
Yeah, it's a $2.9 billion industry annually.
Wow, that's amazing. It's such a huge market. And, I had a friend who, when I first got into internet radio, I became really good friends with a gentleman. His name was Ken Six, and he had this show called Arbor Talk, it was talking about trees and things like that. And, he always mentioned to me that, it was always, people have trouble finding people like yourself to, help them with their trees, So there's just not...
arboriculture is something that people choose as a career path, and unfortunately there's very few professional companies out there that can truly offer them that career that they can build upon. And I can count on one hand the names of the companies across the U.S. that are out there that are national firms. But when it comes to small business and mom and pops, it's just about the smash and grab. It's get out there, make our money, get done, and get home. And they're constant rollover of employees, and they promise their
franchise interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for now we've been asking the entrepreneurs of one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with the CEO of Junkluggers, Josh Cohen. And since 2004, the Junkluggers has been offering an environmentally friendly alternative to traditional junk removal. Hey, Josh, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Marty, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Josh. We would like to ask our guests where you're calling from this morning, Josh.
New York City.
That's fantastic. Of course, one of my favorite places. I was born in New York, and so I don't even have to ask you how the weather is there today, because I'm in Pennsylvania. We're about 70 miles west of the city, so that's fantastic. This is, when I was reading about your story, Josh, I was fascinated for many different reasons, but, maybe you could talk or describe the history of Junkluggers.
Yeah, sure. So the whole thing started in 2004 using my mom's Dodge Durango. And I got the idea while I was studying abroad in Australia. A friend said he made $100 hauling away a neighbor's refrigerator. And I thought that was a great idea. Right. I was only making, I think, minimum wage at my internship that I'd planned for that summer. So went home, printed out some homemade flyers on my parents' computer, and just started going around town handing them out.
It is. It's fantastic. Did your education help you, in coming up with this whole concept as well, Josh, while you were studying abroad?
I'd like to say yes. I think my parents would really like me to say yes.
Sure, of course.
And I think it gave some good foundation. I went to business school, but I really do believe most of the learning was, kind of on the ground as we went.
That's fantastic. And, of course, being, your mom was a part of that whole thing in the beginning, too, it's always, we love these stories, having these, these kind of stories on the show, so it's very interesting. Maybe you could talk a little bit about Junkluggers as, a franchise. Like if you were at a franchise show, Josh, and someone came up to your booth and they said, okay, so what do you guys do? How do you typically respond to the question?
Yeah, in general, junk removal, it's a service that everyone needs at some point in their life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, rather than dealing with the daunting, kind of backbreaking task of removing generally bulky, heavy, unwanted things like sofas or construction debris, people would rather just pay us to take care of all the work for them. And so that's what we do when we provide a extremely customer-friendly and customer-centric approach to it from the time they give us a call all the way until we sweep up when the job's complete.
That's fantastic. And you guys do it a little different, too, because, there's a lot involved in donating a lot of the items, I guess, to, like, charities. How does that work, Josh?
Yeah, so that's a huge part of our business. In general, our company mission is to keep as many items out of the landfills through donating and recycling. And we have this big, hairy, audacious goal of having 0% end up in landfills by 2020.
Wow.
So one of the main ways we do that is by taking a lot of these things that we haul away that are generally, still in decent enough shape for someone to use, and we donate them to local charities and donation centers.
That's fantastic. I think that's great. It's a fantastic goal, that of course you've set for the company. So I think that's great. How do you use technology in your business, or is technology even used in this type of business, Josh?
Definitely. I'm 31, and I started the business when I was 21, so I guess I feel like I grew up in the technology era in a way, and I saw the benefits of it. So, we've developed our own customized cloud-based software management system. Okay. We also have an app that our guys in the field can use, and basically it's a way to manage all of the daily operations and scheduling and reporting and do it in an efficient and real-time way.
That's fantastic. You're in a pretty big industry too, Josh. You're right. At some point, everyone has to remove junk, from their home. And my wife and I were recently talking the other day saying that, I think we're ready for that. We've been in our home now for 9 years. So, the market is pretty big. Are there any numbers as far as how big your industry is? It seems like, to me, this industry gets bigger every year. My hunch is that there's growth in this industry.
We've been growing steadily for the past 10 years. Even through the recession, we continued to grow. And I think that's because, people are getting a stronger awareness that this type of industry and service is out there.
That's true.
And also there's just unlimited potential because everyone, business or personal, they have stuff that they need to get rid of. So, we've done some studies. It looks like there's a projected 5% annual growth expected through 2020, and we see this industry kind of maxing out around $1.4 billion, and we're not even close to that as an industry right now.
Right. I remember as a kid, I grew up in Sayreville, New Jersey, Josh, and I remember my father, we had this big old station wagon, and we'd literally drive to a junkyard. It was almost like a landfill, we'd have everything in the back, and you'd pay the guy some, you give him a $10, I don't even know how much he gave him at the time, and you just threw everything out, in the junkyard. So it's interesting how things have changed today, and of course our society has become more environmentally conscious, So I've been a fan of this your business and this industry for a long time now, so I think it's fantastic. What's been the most interesting thing that's happened to you since launching Junkluggers? Tough question for our guests.
Definitely. What do you mean exactly?
Well, is there anything that stands out? I mean, in your particular business, I mean, you must have, if I was sitting down having a cup of coffee with you, I bet you'd have some fantastic stories. Does anything stand out? I mean, you started this business at a pretty young age. We've had a lot of guests on the show, and I think you were probably one of the youngest as far as starting it at the time. So any stories that stand out?
Well, I mean, I think, what I've learned is we've grown the business, and at this point we're at about $3 million company or system-wide. We have about 60 employees system-wide. And we're just getting started, by the way.
That's fantastic.
But a lot of the most interesting experiences, I would say, have come around just managing people and managing customer experiences. And I've certainly found early on that the better we're able to kind of treat people and support them on our team, especially, the better they're going to help grow the company and just make it an enjoyable place to come to work. So I don't know if I can think of one, and I'm sure as soon as we hang up I will, but one very interesting.
You'll have a dozen of them, yeah.
Yeah, but that was, I would say, one of the biggest learning curves in growing a business, especially starting at such a young age.
Yeah, I think it's very powerful what you just said, Josh, and I'm going to actually have, I teach for Capital University, and I'm going to have my business students listen to that statement that you just said, because, it is very important, isn't it? Is of course finding the right people, to work with and things like that. And it's not always so easy, is it? So I
especially when you don't
terrific.
have any money.
Especially when you don't have any money, absolutely. And again, I just love the story of, how you started with, really totally grassroots, with what sound like some basic flyers. Do you still have copies of those flyers, by the way, those very first flyers?
Yes, I do.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's historic, really. I think you should save those because someone's going to be asking for you one day, to take a look at those. So I think that's great. You're listening to Franchise Interviews, and we're speaking with the CEO of Junkluggers, Josh Cohen. And so let's get to franchising, Josh. What types of characteristics will you look for in your franchisees?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we've spent a lot of time really thinking about that and discussing it internally, because one of the biggest things I learned and heard over and over when learning about the franchise industry is the better your franchisees and the better relationships you have with them, the more successful the franchise system is overall.
Yeah.
So, in thinking about that, the top thing that we look for in choosing our new franchisees is, are they a right culture fit for us and our company? Right. Can we get along with them when we're talking to them, every day or every week when we're on the phone, and will we be able to see eye to eye? So number one is definitely culture, and we're not looking for necessarily people to be the same as us. I know nobody's the same.
Sure.
But people you feel comfortable going out and getting a beer with and having a candid conversation. Other than that, we're looking for people who've got fire in their belly, understand that as a franchise system, you still got to go out there and build brand awareness locally. And then beyond that, obviously, one of the things we put as last but not least necessarily is are they financially capable?
Sure, absolutely.
So we certainly don't want people, investing their life savings and then and then losing it because they just can't invest a little bit more if that's what it needs for this or that.
Of course, no, absolutely. I think that's well said. Once you decide, that you like them, Josh, and then they like you, I mean, how does it typically work when they want to go forward? How's the training work? I mean, do they come to New York? Is that where the training would take place?
It is. I mean, before we get to training, what we do, we have a pretty in-depth screening process. We really want to get to know the people that we're bringing on our team because they're 10-year contracts, so long-term relationships.
Sure, of course.
Once they get through that process, what we do is
Franchise Interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the Franchipreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you ever dreamed of owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. And as we were saying earlier, Don, we have a great show today because we are meeting with Stuart Vernon of America's Swimming Pool Company. And America's Swimming Pool Company, the Southeast's most respected swimming pool maintenance and repair franchise, was established in 2001 by Stuart Vernon. Hey, Stuart, how you doing today? Welcome to the show. Hi, Stuart. How you doing?
Good. How are y'all?
Good, thank you. Stuart, joining us is my co-host, Don Johnson, and I know, Don, you wanted to say good morning to Stuart.
Thanks for coming on, Stuart. We appreciate it. We're excited to hear about your franchise, which we've never had your type of franchise on before, so welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you very much for having me. We're fans of the show and looking forward to being here today, so thank you.
Great.
Oh, thanks, Stuart. So I would like to ask our guests where you're calling from this morning to get an idea what the weather is there.
We are in Macon, Georgia, which is about 1 hour south of the Atlanta airport, about an hour south of Atlanta.
Okay, good. That's good. And you have an interesting story. What were you doing before you founded America's Swimming Pool Company, and why did you decide to enter this industry, Stuart?
You know, in 2001, I was actually graduating from college in South Carolina, College of Charleston, and I had grown up basically being a serial entrepreneur and knew that I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do or how I was going to do it, but I knew that, you know, controlling my own destiny, starting my own business, that sort of general premise was what I was looking to do. So it was upon graduating from college and exploring a couple of different industries that I literally stumbled upon the swimming pool industry, primarily looking at moving back to my hometown of Macon, Georgia. Found a fragmented market that I felt like we could enter and provide better service than our competition.
Is this something, Stuart, you feel that can be nationwide? I know Marty and I were here up in the Northeast, where the season for warm weather is obviously smaller. My family has a pool. There's pools all over the place. I imagine you can really do well up around here. Maybe talk about that and just tell us basically what your franchise do and how your franchisees are making money.
Sure. Yeah, good question. It's it's an interesting question over the evolution to look back and say, well, is this something that, you know, in the initial phases of the company, we had not planned on franchising. That was not originally part of my business model or our growth model. Originally identified the business model to work in the founding location. But once we began to franchise and we took our opportunity into a neighboring city and into a neighboring state, the same concepts reigned true every market that we entered early on back in 2005 and still reign true to this day as we enter a market. We find that whether it's in Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, upwards of Tennessee, North Carolina, as we have moved further north even, the markets that we're entering consistently are needing, you know, a higher level of service, the professionalism that our concept is built around, and the programs that we've established and put in place have worked, you know, market after market. So to answer your question specifically, yes, as we've looked further north, it's interesting. The pool business revenue holds true as you move further north, even though the seasonality cuts in. Right. So you find that the revenue almost follows the trend of the temperature in the given market. So whatever you pay, Marty, for swimming pool service in the northeastern part of the country, or repair work or renovation work, is higher than regions further south. So it is a market that's able to be entered into and played upon for sure.
Yeah, it's a great service too, Stuart. I was going to say, Don, I remember, and you know this, Don, because I know your family has a pool. I remember my father-in-law just they sold their house several years ago, and just because it was so much work to take care of their pool, and he just had it. You know, it's just so. I mean, it really is. I was looking into what you guys do. I mean, it's a wonderful and important service, I think. You know, so I think it's great what you guys are doing.
Well, we appreciate it, and that's kind of what the business is based around. Is that, you know, there are several consumers out there that we deal with. If you've got a swimming pool, you are either going to maintain the pool yourself on a weekly basis, but you are going to need a swimming pool company in some form or fashion, no matter what. You know, whether it be when the pump goes out or the deck cracks, even if you're taking care of that water yourself, we're able to offer our other 2/3 of our services to that same homeowner, or we're the one-stop shop to the homeowner that says, you know what, I'm tired of dealing with it. I'm tired of turning it green every other week. Y'all deal with it.
Exactly.
And that's where we come in for the full service.
Yeah.
So you said, Stuart, you also build and put in the pools as well, right?
We do everything but new construction. So we actually, our renovation is a big part of our franchisees' business, where meaning, an existing pool that's 10 or 12 years old, which is the average lifespan of a pool before it needs work. It needs a facelift.
Right.
So we'll take it all the way down to the foundation and rebuild it. But our focus is not in new construction. And, thank goodness, frankly, the pool construction industry over the past 2 years has followed the same trends as the housing and home construction industry. So, fortunate that we decided to stick to our original plan and our grassroots during the housing boom, and we did not get into pool construction.
So how do you, Stuart, describe America's Swimming Pool Company to a franchisee, prospect, and investor? I mean, tell us a little bit about that, please.
Sure. When someone is looking at our brand, at our company, we're appealing to a franchisee or an individual that wants to own their own business. We are not looking for someone that's been in the pool business for 10 years. We're not looking for someone that had to have grown up working on pools. We actually, 95% of our franchise owners have the opposite. They are coming to us wanting to start their own business, much like as if I did, much as a lot of the other entrepreneurs in this country did. They want to control their own destiny and start a business. So when they're looking at our business, they're looking to enter a very fragmented market, and they're looking to come in for a low capital startup, so there's very low risk, low overhead, high gross profit margins, and you're able to identify whatever market you're looking at. You take our general principles and our general game plan that we give a prospective franchisee in the beginning, and they very quickly, when doing their due diligence, can see exactly what it is we would do in that market, which is providing a higher quality service, a recognizable brand that doesn't exist in their market, and we're frankly boils down to we're able to do it significantly better than the next guy, and that has evolved and become even truer today even than it was 3 and 4 years ago. Our buying power has significantly increased, our brand has increased, and the practices that we implement on our franchisees have grown over time. So that's what we're able to do when we enter a new market, or when a franchisee is looking at a new market. They take those core principles and apply them to their own territory.
Have you had some conversions, independent pool service companies convert to America's Swimming, or is that something you foresee happening as you move along?
Yeah, great question. Interesting. We just over the past year have developed what we call a conversion program, and we had our first conversion come on board a little over a year ago in Claremont, Florida. A gentleman and his wife who were in the pool business. They had done a great job, very intelligent. They just knew that they needed to take their business to the next level, whether it be from the marketing side of things, the name brand recognition, the website, search engine optimization, buying power. Those were the things that they felt they were lacking, and they were stagnant in their market because of it. So when they converted over a 12-month period of time, their sales increased 95% year over year. And they dramatically changed the face and the look and the feel of their business. But at the same time, we were intentionally not allowing any other conversions. We wanted to make sure the program was right, it was a good fit, and it would be something we could take to a national level. And so it wasn't but about maybe 2 or 3 months ago we implemented an official conversion program. It's on our website as well, where that's going to be the idea moving forward. If someone's in a market and already in the business and they want to take it to the next level, that's what we're going to partner with them and allow them to achieve.
That's great. We were talking about that early in segment 1, Stuart, on regular businesses wanting to take it to the next level, and they were only able to accomplish that through franchising, so it's a great example that you just referenced.
It is, especially in some of these markets that are primarily in the service-based market, retail-based market. The non-restaurant segment especially is just, is really primed if a good franchising system has that conversion. If it's set up right, and
right.
why we wanted to study it. If it's set up right, it really can be truly a win-win for the franchisee and the franchisor, and that's really the bottom line. That's what it's all about.
Any numbers on how big the industry is at all, Stuart?
Numbers on the industry?
Yes.
Is that good? Yes. We're part of a multi-billion-dollar recreational industry or discretionary household improvement industry when we talk about renovating pools. Specifically, we deal in an industry, the swimming pool industry, that's made up of approximately 9 million residential swimming pools in the country. And, it's an industry that, interestingly, virtually didn't exist even 15 or 20 years ago on a large level. I mean, if you think about it, the number of swimming pools grows exponentially. So when a new swimming pool is put in, one does not die or go away. Really, the opposite is true. When a new swimming pool is put in, there is a swimming pool out there that is just turning 9 or 10 years old and needing renovating and repairing. So we're part of a 9 million swimming pool market share in the country, and that's what we're focused on.
What percentage of homes is that, Stuart? You're saying 9 million total pools in the country?
Right. We're finding, and if you think about what that actually means, is primarily is made up of a majority of the country that would maintain or house a swimming pool, meaning the temperature, the environment would be conducive. In the southeast, primarily the 10-state southwestern region, we find about 1 in 8 homes in the neighborhoods that we.
Franchise interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.